Today, we're going to start looking at some of key concepts of VR so as to understand how it's constructed. VR is quite different from traditional movies in the sense that for traditional movies, the experience of the audience is predefined. What do I mean with that? That independently of the content of the movie, the experience for the audience is quite similar. So let's say whether you're watching Love Actually or Star Wars, you're in a movie theater or at your home staring at a screen. But for VR, the experience is very different. And not only from traditional movies, but also each single experience of VR has its own rules for the user, which is essentially thrown into the middle of the experience. And there is always, for every experience, a different logic in how he or her can interact with the content. So what we're going to start looking now is at the walls of experience, which essentially are the new scenes of VR. So let's look at how traditional movie scenes are constructed. Basically, we build a sequential narrative, placing one frame after the other so the audience understands what's happening and when. Filmmakers have a lot of resources in order to build their stories. For example, they have the extreme wide shot to show to the audience where the action is taking place, or the close up so the audience can empathize with the characters. All of these resources are part of the language of film, which is what filmmakers use when writing their storyboard so as to construct the different scenes of the movie. So, from a creative perspective, the process will be something like this. We write the script, which contains the scenes. Later, we write the storyboard, which contains the different shots. But in VR, the process will be a little bit different. We write the script, which will contain the walls of experience, to later move on to designing the audience journey, which relates to the audience behavior. So, what is a wall of experience? Essentially, is the space where the action takes place and where the audience is being thrown into. It has nothing to do with the character's action. It's simply the space where it's taking place. And bear in mind that in VR, space is the story. We need to build places that have a lot of narrative potential for the audience to imagine stories of their own. As a visual reference, you can think of the man landing into the moon. Imagine how it must have felt and how much it was for them to imagine. A wall of experience is limited by my experiential capacities. So it's the area where I am free to move, look, and interact with. For example, a whole flat could be my wall of experience if I was free to move around it. But if I was only free to move around the living room, then that will be my wall of experience. And maybe the creators may have decided that the bathroom is another wall of experience that I can transition to. But unless I am free to roam around the flat, then there is two different walls of experience. So for example, if we were to design stories with three different worlds of experience, then at each new world that the audience is stepping into, they should have a better understanding of our imaginary world as a whole. This will be the structure for a linear story, where it's the creator that sets the order from which the audience transitions from one world to the last one. It would be different if we were talking about a non-linear story, where actually the audience is free to roam around from one world to the other at no given order. And finally, we have the audience journey, which is the unique experience that each individual is going to have in your story. This is going to be our biggest challenge because every person is going to be attracted by different elements. But this is also what makes VR unique. So to finish, I'd like to challenge you to ask a friend to cover your eyes with a black cloth and take you somewhere you're not familiar with. It doesn't need to be a new country. It can just be any place you are simply not familiar with, like, I don't know, a new store in the neighborhood, the backyard in your building, etc. And once you're there, take the black cloth off and look around you. And try to notice how long does it take you to get used to this new environment. Also, what is setting the mood for you? And which is the element that plays the biggest role in setting that mood? Try to analyze how do you feel and write all of this down. So to try to understand how those audience feel when they are thrown into an unknown place. So thank you so much, and I see you in the next chapter.